Hi guys, welcome back to Battle with Ola. This is Mojola Olua, and today we want to talk about a very important topic. It's a brand new year, and we want to consider how to quit your job legally or lawfully, how to essentially sack your boss. So nobody's sacking anybody here. You know, there are different means of quitting or determining an employment, but we just want to talk in this short video about how to do it properly and lawfully, so that you do not suffer any casualty, and so that nothing is mixed up, and no fault is found in you by your employer or by anyone in particular. So how do you quit your job legally? I'm going to talk about it in 4 points, and those 4 points will just run through the process from when you decide that you want to leave your job. Now, this video is not for people who have not decided. I'm not going to help you decide whether you should leave your job or not. It is for people who have decided. So if you're at the point when you've made the decision, what next steps do you take to make sure that you properly execute that decision? I believe everyone has agency to decide for themselves what they want to do. So we are not going to be helping you make that decision in this video. But if you have made the decision, what does the law expect of you? The first thing, the most important thing, is to go back to your contract of employment. Very important. And I say this is important. I've done a video where I talked about things to consider before accepting an employment. That video was done, I believe, at the end of 2020. Please go watch that video. It's a very important video. I did it about 4 years ago now. So but today I want to talk about leaving the job. What should you do? And I say that go back to your contract of employment because it is so important and so crucial. The court has held in a plethora of cases that it will not derogate from the contract of employment between two parties, the employer and the employee. So whatever is decided, entered into as an agreement between both parties voluntarily and without any duress or deceit, the court will respect, recognize, and enforce it. That is why it's important. Once you decide you want to leave your job, go back to your letter of employment. And I'll give you an instance. There was a time that I was thinking of, I had not decided to leave the job, but we were just talking at work that day, and I was like, even if we want to leave this job, what should we do? We need, I think I was telling my colleagues that, we probably need a month. And that's because, it was in my head at the time that ordinarily everyone gives 1 month's notice. And then my colleagues told me that, no, we don't need to give 1 month's notice. We're on 6 months probation. And they had read our contract. I had read it, but not paid attention to that part. They said that, the termination clause had said that we can leave and they can fire us at any time during the 6 months probation. So if we were to leave within that time, we need not give them any notice at all, as they would not need to give us a notice if they wanted to fire us. So that was one of the defining moments for me that helped me realize. That was a couple of years ago, and it helped me realize that, the contract of employment is so important because even your employer cannot deviate from it, just as you cannot deviate from it. So when you go back to your contract of employment, most contract of employments we have termination clause. Termination clause is contained not just in contracts of employment, but in most agreements. So when I say contract of employment, I mean your employment letter. It doesn't have to be anything cast in stone, or set in concrete. It could be just anything that you signed or that was executed by you and your superior, your boss, your employer, to show that you are now in their employment and that you have a job from them. So when you look at it, it will tell you that, okay, if we want to fire you, we can fire you for so and so reasons, then we can dismiss you for so and so reasons, and then if you want to leave us, you can leave us after giving so and so payment or so and so notice. Most contract of employment will just say that a 1 month notice or salary in lieu. That is, you leave, give them a month notice that you're leaving, so you work for that 1 month, you hand over and stuff, and then you can leave, or you pay them back your 1 month salary if you want to leave immediately without giving notice. So that's what most employment letters say, but check your own in particular because it could be different, like my own that I told you about. So check your letter of employment. Also, if your employment has a statutory flavor, that means that it was created by an act of a legislative house, you need to look at what the law says, the law creating, that particular employment. It could say something else apart from 1 month or salary in lieu. So whatever it is, some employments require 3 months notice. The notice period is to enable, because you have decided but your employer does not know yet, so it's to enable them acclimatize themselves with your absence, and so that they can make provisions for your replacement. So that's what the provision is for. And then you can pay them in lieu, just to cushion the loss of talent that they will be experiencing. Also, you need to look at your contract of employment, because there are some employments where you might have signed a bond to say that I will not leave until so time, because the employer is pumping so and so resources into me, maybe to train me, to make me better, to sharpen my talent in this field. So I would make sure that I pay it back to them in working experience. So if you have said that, you cannot just up and leave at any point in time. You need to respect and fulfill that bond or that contract. So important, go back to your letter of employment. If you read different judgments and decisions of the National Industrial Court, you will see that in several decisions, the court will go back to that contract of employment. What did both of you agree at the point of employment? And has anyone breached this agreement? So your employer cannot hold you back, outside the constraints of what the employment letter or contract says. You cannot also, leave them, you cannot also abscond or just leave them all of a sudden outside the constraints of or the provisions of your employment letter. So the first thing is to go back to your employment letter to see what it says about leaving the employment. The second thing you need to do is speak to HR, or speak to anyone that acts in the position of HR or employment, labor talent manager, or anything in that line of flavor. So speak to them so that you understand what's the culture here, regarding leaving this employment. What are the procedures, the special procedures? Apart from your contract of employment, sometimes too you will need to look at your bylaws, and the employee handbook. Because most contract of employment will give you specifics and then say that you are also bound by anything in any bylaw or guidebook or handbook that the employer or the company or the business provides. So you don't just look at your contract of employment. If there are any such bylaws, handbooks, rules and regulations, guidelines, you look at them as well, so that you know the proper procedure for exiting the company. Then you speak to the HR or the talent manager so that they put you through what you need to do, who you need to address your letter to, when you need to submit the letter, the tables that your letter must pass through, those who must sign. I've done this before, so because we did not really have something like HR in that organization, I went to speak to an admin manager. So you could speak to anyone that is in that line that would likely process your letter, so that they put you through and you do the proper thing. Very important. The third thing that you need to do is to now put things together. Okay, put your things together, your personal belongings, personal files, effects. Take them out of the office space or off the office equipment or the office gadgets, the office laptops and whatnot. I had a friend who had a situation where she had left her employer, she had quit her job, and she had to go back to get some of her personal effects, and then the employer accused her of theft, even though she was getting what belonged to her. Because she was coming back after she had left, she was accused of theft, and it almost got out of hand, but for God. So very important for you to get your things in order and get them out of your workplace before you finally leave. Because coming back to some workplaces after you have left, it brews a kind of, you leaving brews a kind of enmity, whether you agree with it or you recognize it or not. So coming back may be difficult, and once you're out of the system, you're out of it. Even people you smiled and laughed together, they are now bound by some rules and regulations as to what they can indulge you with. So you'll be surprised that you may want to come in and get something that you would normally just walk in and get, and then someone that was probably your friend or your colleague would then block you and say, no, you can't access that. You also, in some workplaces, you'll be logged out of several platforms. So before you get off that, things that belong to you, not the ones that belong to the company, things that you have the lawful right to go away with, take them of take them before you finally quit, and then hand over properly. Get your things out and hand over properly. If there's like an handing over process, if there's an handing over process that probably requires you to teach another person your job or write them a handover note, do that, complete those procedures. Get your personal effects out and hand over properly. And of course, the last thing, submit your letter of resignation. Very important. Submit it within time. Submit it in tandem with the date you have put on it, and let the period that you have set out count, and then you can exit. If you do these things, it's very certain, very, very certain that your employer will have nothing to hold against you. Some employers get vindictive and then they want to sue you for that or get you arrested for this. But if you have done these things that we have explained, it might be difficult or near impossible for them to hold you back for anything. And then you can just move on to another job or move on with your life as you deem fit. So it's important for you to follow this procedure. What have we said? Look at your letter of employment, see the legal requirements for you to leave that office and comply with it. Speak to the HR or talent manager or admin manager, whoever is in charge of managing admin and personnel, and then get your things out of the office and hand over properly. And the last thing is submit your resignation letter. Make it official. It doesn't have to be paragraphs upon paragraphs. Don't get emotional, and sometimes you don't even need to explain that much. Just write a paragraph thanking them for the time you've spent with them and wishing them best of luck in their future endeavors, and then you sign it off. It's as simple as that. No need for extra explanations that could get you into trouble, or that could be interpreted in another light that you did not intend it to be interpreted in. So very important. Also, as an addition, if you need a reference letter, you should speak to your boss or whoever is your superior or HR to facilitate that before you leave, or to give you a guarantee of that after you might have left, if you're going on to another job, they would recommend you. It's important not to leave your job, bearing harms or fighting, because you may need a reference, And if the situation does not warrant a peaceful leaving too, please just make sure you do what you need to do lawfully and go your way. So this is what I wanted to talk to you about. I will see you in my very next video. Don't forget to subscribe, and don't forget to look in the description box for all the services that we offer. Toodles.